Hey, Lucia.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Lucia Garzón. I was born and raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania, with my mom, who's Italian, and my dad, who's Colombian. So I got a really nice cultural mix of different things. And I was exposed to like a lot of different foods and communities and all of that type of stuff when I was really young. So that's really important to, I guess, my art practice now.
That's awesome. And you went to Tyler School of Art?
Yeah, I went to Tyler for printmaking.
Oh, nice. Printmaking.
Could you tell us about your art practice and maybe talk specifically about some of the pieces that you submitted with your application?
Yeah, so I guess my practice really starts with like a lot of communication between me and my family and like stories about them coming to this country for the first time and like navigating a new life and creating a career and making a family and trying to like sustain like the American dream or like an American normal American life. So a lot of my work just starts off with like me just sitting down with family and like just really talking about their experience and like how they felt being here and what it means for them to like be American or like to live the American life in conjunction like with where they came from. So it all starts there with like a story or a narrative, and then like the materials come after that. So I'm never like married to a specific medium, and I'm not like tied to being a printmaker or a sculptor or a painter or anything like that. So it really just like the stories and the experiences guide me to the material and like what feels necessary for me to use to make these things and like to make communicate these ideas. So it's really just a lot of trial and error because it's a lot of times I'm using things that I've never used before, and it's frustrating because I have sometimes lack of knowledge, but I think that's like the fun of making a lot of times is like being unfamiliar with materials and just like figuring it out. Once I have like a hashed out idea of what I want to make, then I just like figure it out from there. And a lot of it is like communication with people who know how to do things that I don't know how to do, who can help me along the way. And that's kind of what happened when I made the trash cart, like the janitor's cart. So my dad has been a janitor like my whole life and has cleaned buildings at night. And that was like, for some reason when I was a kid, I thought that was so cool, and I like admired him for, he used to like go work all day and then come home late and then leave again to go clean buildings. And I thought that was like the coolest thing because he was out late like cleaning buildings. So me making that cart was kind of like an homage to like his experience and doing all of these things so that I could like, go to school and have everything that I needed and stuff like that. So like through making that, I was working a lot with wood because the whole piece is wood. And my grandpa, who came from Italy, who was a cabinet maker, we kind of collaborated on the piece together because I really had like no idea what I was doing, but I knew what I wanted it to look like and how I wanted to make it. So he helped me like along the way, and I worked with him in his wood shop to make the piece. And then when I showed the piece, it was paired with a video of him and I working together. So it's really important for me to show like those two sides of where I've come from. And I think me dedicating like my practice to the people who like got me here is the most important part of what I make.
And is that the piece with hands like boot soles? Is that what that piece is?
Yeah, so the show that piece was in was called With Hands Like Boot Soles. The titles change all the time because I don't really title my work often. It's usually just like a group of things that go together. So like I'll apply and title it like a million different things. But yeah, it's right next to me. It's this big wooden thing.
Well, awesome. Another question we have is, how have you managed to stay creative during this time, and what are you working on if you have any projects going right now?
Well, I can't work like at my professional job because it's closed down. It's not considered essential. So I really don't have like that much to do. And I have a studio and I'm paying for a studio space. So like the only thing I kind of can do is be creative and be making and like hashing out ideas that I wanted to work on for a while. So I think, yeah, I've had like no other option. I have no other excuse, it feels like, other than for me to be in here every day and like working on stuff. I recently just finished making a wooden carpet. It's like a small replica of a carpet that was in my like family room in my childhood house, and I have it now in my apartment. So I made a small version of it to eventually make a larger version. So it's kind of like a mock-up, trying to like figure out exactly how I want to make it. And I made it detachable so that I don't have to worry about storage. Because eventually when I make the big one, it's 10 feet by 6 feet. So it's really, really big. So I kind of hashed out how I want to like connect the wood and how it can be detachable and be really intricate with the designs of the carpet.
Oh, cool.
That's sick. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's just a small
Wow.
one. Eventually I'll get to making the big one.
So in what ways do you think art and artists will be beneficial during this time?
Well, I think people often forget that everything that they digest every day is literally art. Like, it's not just a painting on a wall, but it's music and it's movies and it's TV and it's all of these things that we love to keep ourselves busy, especially when we're bored and not able to work. So like providing entertainment really is, I think, one of the most important. And then also artists are usually really empathetic people, and we really record like our experience and our time. We kind of like write history through our work. And I think people will be making work about this experience, and they'll be making work about the social aspects and the economic aspects of everything that's been going on. And art has always served that purpose. It's always like told a story about the time that we live in. So it'll really just kind of be like a biographical big chunk of work that people are like expressing how they're feeling during this time. And also like the whole thing with Philly and like artists being defunded and art communities being defunded. I think we're gonna really come together and figure out ways to remind people how important art is, like in every community, and how we can reach all different communities and, you know, interact with kids and interact with adults and provide like relief for stressful times. So yeah, we're just gonna make a lot of stuff.
What would you say would be a dream project for you?
Well, I think the dream project right now in my head is probably just making the big carpet. I work very sequentially, so like I don't have this really big crazy idea that I've always been wanting to make. Like my brain is really like streamlined, so I start with something small and I work myself up. Yeah, I think eventually I want to make this giant carpet when I have more space and more material, because it requires a lot. So I'm not there yet, but I think that's the dream right now. And then that can lend itself to being something else. Like it can turn into a piece with video or performance or anything else. And it can become like something totally different that I haven't even like thought of yet. So it's exciting.
Is there an artist that you're really inspired by or excited about right now?
There's so many, it's hard to name. I think a lot of music artists right now, I think music artists are really pushing the boundaries of like also being visual artists as well, and like pairing it with videos and stuff. A lot of fashion designers. I'm really into this person. His name is Adam Perez. He's a photographer and filmmaker, and I think he's based in LA, and he makes work about like Mexican communities in LA and like their lives and how they live their day to day. And I can really feel like the emotional aspect of his work and like how he relates to his subjects, which is important to me as well, to show like a connection between my life and who I'm talking about, and talking about like identity and all of those things. And I think I've been straying a little bit away from involved in like the direct fine art community, because I think it gets a little oversaturated sometimes with people who are just concerned about like what looks good on a white wall or what's sellable or what is popular right now. And I'm more interested in people who want to talk about life and like realities of people's lives, and just being more honest about experience rather than it being more about like making money.
What book would you recommend to an artist to read right now?
Every time anyone asks me this question, I always say anything written by Gloria Anzaldúa, specifically Borderlands. It is like the most monumental thing I've ever read, and influences like almost everything I make, and is still incorporated in a lot of work that I make. That book specifically was so important to me when I read it, because I related to it so much. Like she said everything that I'm not able to say with words, because I'm not a writer or like a public speaker or anything. I really just make stuff. And I feel like she expressed how I feel about race, identity, and gender through words. So it really like helped me clear up thoughts in my head about what I was thinking and how I was feeling. And to have that in like a book is so important, I feel like, to a maker and really to anyone who struggles with identity or like figuring out their life and stuff like that. Anything written by her is awesome.
And on a similar note, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given, or what advice would you give to artists right now?
This one's hard. There's so much to be said, because being an artist is definitely not easy and is never easy, although it's fun. I think the most important thing is just to be confident with the pace that you work at and to not compare yourself to other people, because the comparison, I think, is what ruins a lot of people and their confidence. And everyone has like their own journey that they go through, and everybody moves in different ways and different paces. And you have to be like confident that the way you're moving is what you need to be doing. And I think social media has really like confused artists and stressed artists out, because everyone is seeing like these famous people or whatever, you know, going to residencies or showing in the biggest galleries or the biggest museums. And I think young artists are thinking that that's the way that they need to approach their career and their lives. And it's really just like not the truth. The majority of artists are like working class people who need to make money and like have a life and pay their bills. So not everyone has access to like quitting their job and going to a residency for half a year. So I think just being honest with your position and realizing that the things that you have and the things that you want to say are equally as important as anyone else's. And you have to trust your own process and how you're going to go about that.
If you could live with any piece of work by an artist, what piece would you want?
At first, I wanted to say a Carrie James Marshall painting, like any painting. I feel like I'm not worthy of having that. So when I was a freshman in college, I saw this series of prints from an artist named Wengechi Mutu. I don't know if you guys know her. It was a series of prints. It's called The Original Nine Daughters. And I've only seen it once and I've only looked at it once, but it was like, I don't know, it just amazed me. And it was before I kind of even knew what printmaking was. And I like never forgot it. It was so beautiful. I don't know. I just loved it. And I started researching about the artist, and it was the first time that I was like really into somebody who is making currently, not somebody who was like dead. She's actually alive. Reading about her life, seeing the similarities between like her life and her work was really important for me to see, like as a young artist. I think if I could have anything, it'd be those prints.
Well, we really loved your work, so.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Lucia. We really, really appreciate you being here with us. So I guess, yes, this is, ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, take care.